Hey friends, welcome to Ask Shane B. Jeremy Jakewa here. Not here with Shane today because he is still busy in the studio working on Hymns Volume 2. We're so excited for you guys to hear it. It's turning out amazing. So today we're going to have another special episode, jump in on a conversation that Shane had at Linger Conference a couple years back with Phil Wickham. Last week we shared with you a conversation they had about the role of the worship leader, and today we're talking about transitions. So we've talked a little bit about transitions and different things like that in worship sets before on the podcast, but today is a really unique conversation with Phil, and they've got some great insights. So we hope it blesses you. Check it out. See ya.
Hi, Shane here.
Phil here.
Welcome to Worship Talk.
Worship Talk.
Radio.
Worship straight worship talk. Worship straight talk. Radio.
Tell me, Phil, I think you do this really well in a world where we have songs. You know, we got 17 minutes to do a set. We got, maybe that's 3 songs, 3.5, maybe it's 4. Depends if we have a little talking moment. You know, we have a female singing 2. We have a male singing 2. This is going to be a key. This is going to be in B. This one's going to be in E. Like, tell me, like, just your first thoughts on like transitions.
Yeah.
Like thinking about how you think about the 17 minutes, and just what first comes to your head, and like, how can I use those 17 minutes to, like you said before, like accomplish a certain goal, which is to, you know, exalt, fan a flame for, commune with, stir affection for our Jesus Christ our Lord. So tell me.
Well, I think there's two sides of this, because there's one thing that is so beautiful to leave some room open for just the spontaneous, and sometimes that word can take on a very charismatic meaning, and it's not what I mean. It could be, if you're at a charismatic church, that's how you express yourself, awesome, but just a moment like, hey, we're going to just rest in the end of this song and just see if we want to sing the chorus again, or if a prayer comes out, if a verse comes to mind. That's beautiful to have in there. But there's a lot, like I plan out, I try to plan out my sets, especially with the worship team. That is different. It's a different drummer every time we roll in the church. So it's like, it's probably what happens in a lot of churches. So you got to really have a structure so that you can have like some success and don't have to worry about, you know, every little thing that can go wrong. So I think planning is a big thing, and transitions are a massive part of that planning. I mean, keys and ideas and thoughts and themes, and so, I mean, it'll take probably too long, but I almost just want to go through, like, us going through our 4-song set this week I fly back to San Diego tonight, and I'm 4 o'clock in the morning, wake up to go lead worship tomorrow. And you know, we were all, me and the 4 of the worship leaders at the several different campuses were kind of not battling each other, but just really struggling to find the right flow, you know, because it's so important for like people just to kind of, to be able to feel like, man, I can rest in what the leaders are doing. And there's a direction, there's a plan, and there's a purpose. But as far as transitions, you know, what I love for there to be a theme transition or a key transition or a spoken word idea transition between every song. Like I don't like just ending a song, and if it has to go to a different key, starting another song I try never to do that. Yeah, you know, and so when you got the same key, I mean, that's awesome. You just thank the Lord for computers and keyboards. Because you just tell the guy with the computer and the keyboard to keep humming that 1 and 5 note, you know, and to start the next song, and that's awesome. But one thing I found is be so like uplifting and encouraging to our church, especially some of those early morning risers, you know, that you kind of just want to kick back but you know, like, man, there's so much to be had here. We're the family of God getting together to celebrate Him. Like, let's not forget that. Is having a tie-in scripture and thought, like, even if it's 20 seconds, even if it's 30 seconds, like, you know, there's always like, there's people walking in, you know, they're checking their kids into Sunday school and stuff. You got the first song. It's a lot of times it's fun or whatever. It doesn't
like
have to be
ringing
fun.
the church bell.
Yeah, it's like, hey, come on, we're here. And then after that, I usually, maybe sometimes before the first song, but almost always before the second, I like to connect with the people, you know, like not just song. I like to say, hey, welcome. I mean, this is more than a building. This is the house this is the family of God, and we're coming into this house. This is our house today to celebrate Him. And man, this next song says, whatever it is, like a hurricane crashing over me. Your love is fierce. Like, isn't that crazy? We could talk about this amazing, this fierce love, yet it speaks to us in this gentle whisper, and it's here today. It's so fierce that it's stronger than death, and it goes through the darkness of our hearts and forgives us for everything. And like 15 seconds in just talking about that in the morning, you'll start to hear some amens pop around the crowd, And people, and then maybe speaking of the truth, for God so loved the world, you know this, but think of this. He loved the world, He gave His only Son that we could be free, And so let's sing it, like, to start with even the chorus, you know what I mean? Like, let's sing it again, man, come on, again. Like, I think there's something to be said about, like, really, so much of what worship leading is to me is reminding the church of God's character and faithfulness.
It's like, it's remembering, yeah.
Yeah,
and those 30 seconds, y'all, that like, seriously, those 30 seconds are so important. And here's the deal. Here's the difference between like you and maybe somebody else who does a similar thing for those 30 seconds. Like, you actually think about those 30 seconds a lot.
I didn't really maybe explain that well, but
yeah.
I do. I pre-plan it.
I mean, that's a major deal.
Because
30 seconds could go real south or real north, and you're going, man, what can I say that would help people remember these things?
And if I think of something too that's like, man, this is a cool little nugget, if you want to use that word, to say, we can get through it pretty quick. It's not like I'm going to be Mr. Speaking pastor this morning. I want to get through it quick, but just remind the church. Sometimes like, wow, that's going to go great into this song, but the song before doesn't really lead in. We're going to do this song, but let's sing. We got to sing a song about grace. Like, maybe it's This Is Amazing Grace or something like that. We're going to sing Heaven Fall Down, but instead of that, we're going to talk about His grace, so we can lead from His grace, changing us into thrown into the darkness and this fierce love. And so let's sing about it, And so I think it's connecting verbally. It's letting, like, don't let, like, really think through the keys too. And even sometimes I'll completely change like where a song usually lives. Like Cornerstone is one that comes to mind, where it's like, my hope is built on the, and then you do the octave jump, right? Christ, whatever. And it's like, man, what if just because we're going to be 15 minutes in, and so there's maybe not time to do a whole song, but it's like it needs that last period, like that last exclamation point. Sometimes I'll do I'll just do somewhere in the middle, like wherever we are. Just maybe it's Cornerstone is Christ alone, and never gets high, never gets low, and the drums never even come in, and but we're using that song as a bounce, as a lifting off point into the last song, and I just think like you can really get creative. I think the other week I led at Harvest. We brought back that old song, we fall down, we lay our crown at the feet of Jesus. Because we were talking about, oh man, what was it? It was a new song of mine called Christ is Risen. Hallelujah, Christ is risen from the grave. And we fall down, we lay our crown. We're kind of just, man, like, we're going to see you one day, but even today we do it. Like whatever you've given us, the feet of Jesus. And Christ is risen to that. Because forever He is glorified, forever He is lifted high, forever. And that's what we ended. And just as like this cool theme of Christ being risen, because you're alive forever, we're going to lay our crowns before you, and forever you will be glorified. And there's just this theme of like life and worship Him for that life. And I think like if you take time to really think about that flow, that you're not trying to manufacture the Spirit, that's impossible, but you can really really work at facilitating those moments to have as much impact as possible.
I think just to add on to that, like I'm such a distracted person, y'all, and I know that your average person checking their kids in or coming in from parking, and it's not till song 4, it's not till the end of the set that they're finally starting to just, life is just sort of coming down, and then the worship set's over, And so like I'm always trying to do the same thing you're talking about of making, if I have 22 minutes, I'm trying to play a 22-minute song. I think of it like that.
Yeah.
Where that moment doesn't happen, because I know myself, where there's the awkward stop and the silence, and then you hear some clicks, and I'm out. I mean, at that moment, I'm just gone, And I'm just thinking, like, we have this much time. God's given us these different talents, these different members, and how do we use this to create a song that draws people in, and I just think that's just so useful for distracted people, you know, where at least they've gone 22 minutes without having to like you lose them on thoughts because there's just stops and weird changes and you know, somebody walking in or, you know, and I think that's applied to everything. That's applied to like at least having the conversation of like, what are we putting on the screen? Is it helpful? Is it helpful are people, when they see that on the screen, are they thinking about what we want them to think about?
This is a conversation we've had at our church recently.
Yeah.
Because they're big on putting stuff online, you know, which I get that. It's a great resource. But there was like, what are those giant things called that have the cameras on it? They kind of...
Just like big boom thingy, yeah.
Yeah. What are those called? I forget. Yeah, like these camera cranes. It's like going right in front of my face, you know, while I'm singing. And I'm just seeing people like, you know, in the front row just kind of following it with their eyes. And just like, So over the next couple months, it was a process, but we got rid of the crane. And, you know, the room isn't that big. It's 1,500. I mean, it's bigger than a lot of churches, but not as big as tonight or today. 1,500 seats. Like, I could see the faces of the people in the back row. And it's like, do we need my face on the 10 by 10 screen behind the lyrics? Or can we just not have that?
Yeah.
And do we need big LED doing graphics the whole time? Like just like questioning the things that have become norm as something that we've been doing as a church in this last couple of years, and it's been very helpful, very exciting for us.
Totally,
because it's just like things have been simplified.
Yeah,
and things have been stripped away to like, what are we doing here, and what's the purpose and what's the goal? I love production. I love haze. I love lights. I love all of that. But it's like, I think taking a step back, and the key is to really get to do it as a team and not just to be the squeaky wheel worship leader that everybody's like, oh no, he's bringing up a complaint again or whatever. Yeah. But when your pastors or all the pastors are on the same thing, it's like, hey, let's just take an audit of like what people see and hear and feel when they come in. It's been really beneficial to us.
And something that would be helpful is lump 30 people out of your congregation. Like, pull them aside, people who are there, part of the church family, like, what do you think about when we do these things, you know? Because I'm the same way. I love LED walls. I love subwoofers. And I think God has created those things for his glory. And there's a place and a time to use them. But we've done the same thing. I mean, our church, I lead worship at a church in Dallas called Watermark Community Church. And I mean, we have like the best screens.
Yeah, it's pretty epic.
I think
church.
You can, and you know, we started having conversations. We started leading at a gathering, and same thing. Our faces were up there, and we just started to lump everybody in and just go like, "You tell me, what's helpful for you, you know, Jay, when it says in Christ alone, my cornerstone, or my hope is built in Christ, you know, like, is it helpful to have a guitar behind that, or would it be better to think, if you're trying to just think about him, if you're trying to think about where he is and like the reality of your voice landing in his ears, you know, like what's helpful for that? And we use those screens like crazy, but it's all to support that idea, you know, and so it's just a really great, and then there's times where we have songs where we are drawing people in, and we know that there's, you know, 30% of the folks are lost, and the screens are full of people, you know, and guitars. And so there's those moments where like that's really appropriate, you know? And those are just really good questions God's given us, you know, whether you have 80 people at your church or whether you have 8,000 people at your church, he's given you these gifts in, like, we have, you know, microphones and speakers and people that play instruments and all those things. And like, how I think the main takeaway is like, are you having the conversation?
Yeah, it's just a good conversation to have. It's for sure.
That's good. Awesome. Love you guys. Shane and Phil, out.
Well, guys, we hope that was a blessing for you and helpful for you as you think through how to build transitions into your set and be really intentional about how you're leaving the body. If you have any questions for us, please continue to send them to AskShaneB@worshipinitiative.com. We love you. We're praying for you. We'll see you next time.